Well, very good morning, everyone. As Thomas just said, it is soon to be 1 year since this big invasion of Ukraine by Russia has happened. And I think many of us have looked differently at the world during this year. We've reconsidered some of our own values and principles. We reassessed what is important, what is not important in our lives. And I think what is also very important, that we realized that peace and security in Europe is not for granted. And that is not only the hybrid wars, but it is also a very, very brutal, old-style wars that are still possible on a European soil that leaves people, cities, villages devastated, inhabitants killed, children, women raped. And that is the reality that we've lived through all of this year. It is pretty stark to realize that, and that is still a possibility. And of course, being here in Riga, that the country that is ready for that atrocity is about 220 kilometers from here. It's not long distance. And I think what we can do in this situation is, of course, as most of us have done, find a way to support Ukraine. But the other thing, which is where we as a center come into play, learn the lessons. Learn the lessons. And I don't think we should anymore have the question in a way, well, it is interesting to learn the lesson because it's just intellectually kind of reinvigorating learning lessons. I think we have to pose the question in a way that if and when we would happen to have similar fight, what it takes to be prepared, what it takes to win. So over the last more than a year, we've been studying the information element of the war. And not only since 24th of February, but we actually were believing the US intelligence, I should say that, and we started our efforts for data gathering sometime before the war. Because of course, although the invasion starts on the 24th of February, the preparations, the warning signals, other elements are there in a run-up. So it's very important also to understand how that happens, to be able to work with that, and if possible, use options and methods to prevent it. So today we're presenting some of our researches. There were more. I had a list of about 10, from which we choose 4. And as you see, we framed it in a particular way. How to lose an information war. And that is, I think, what has happened. Although, of course, I admit there is an element of optimism in that phrase. And we, therefore, should not be complacent. Because what I think we've seen is Russia not living to what was our expectation of their capability. And Ukraine, and in a large way also West, superseding the expectation of what was our understanding of the capability. But we have to admit that Russia has been able also to adjust and adapt. So complacency has no place. We have to keep, like in the operations, we have to keep our momentum. We have to keep the initiative. And that is for me one of those big takeaways when I look at this information confrontation field, how much actually it reminds me the logic of a more classical battlefield. In a sense where the one who has initiative drives the situation. They have a dominance. The ones who have the initiative. The ones who have a better knowledge of a terrain or the humans where the communication happens have an advantage. The ones who have maneuver capability are better also in information space. And the ones that have the strongest networks of people ready to communicate have it better. And the ones who are ready to give mission command down to the lower ranks are also the ones that succeed. So these are kind of quite a few parallels that I find in the way we understand the purely classical military battlefield. So today, as I've said, we will present few of our researches. There are more, and they will be published. And 3 of those that we are presenting today are already available, while the one that is specifically zooming on the kind of how the war started and first months is still in a kind of final preparation works. So that will be a bit of a peek into that. But I think, as I've said, we have to really pay attention to the lessons, because one of the other takeaways that I personally had from this war is that who has the upper hand in a cognitive battle tends to have an upper hand also in a kinetic battle. And if you look at the war right now, war is battle of wills. That is then underpinned by the military capability. And first and foremost, that's the will of a Kremlin, and ability of Kremlin to kind of push the Russian citizens in a particular direction. It's the will of Ukrainians, their will to defend the country and will to free the country. And the third will, which is also very important, is our will to support Ukraine. And in a way, if you think about like at a strategic level, the will that will be strongest will prevail. And it is not a short term, it is a long term. So it is really important part of the war, the way the information battles are fought, the way the will of the society is uplifted or undermined, because that translates in an immediate military results and long-term military results. So with that, I hope you will have a interesting facts, interesting ideas. I hope there will be lessons learned for everyone to take away from this. And of course, mind you, we're just giving a specific kind of sneak peek in a much larger volume of work that we've been doing on war this year, and that would hopefully whet your appetite to read more of our findings throughout the year. With that, thank you very much, and I'm so happy to see all you here.